Hello and welcome to this session. This is Professor Farhat, in which we will keep working with Alternative Minimum Tax AMT. In the prior session, we looked specifically at AMT adjustments. And specifically, we completed up to this point. We looked at 1, 2, 3 type of adjustments. Some of them were pluses, some of those were minuses. In this session, I will work 2 more adjustments, plus I will cover tax preferences. So by the time we're done with this session, we're going to be up to AMTI before exemption. So that's the goal. So I will work 2 more adjustments and 1 preference. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, farhatlectures.com. You are here because you are serious about mastering taxation. Whether you are taking a tax course, studying for the CPA exam, or enrolled agent, tax feels overwhelming, not because it's impossible, but because it's dense, detailed, and often taught at a pace that doesn't match the way you learn. The rules can feel disconnected, and the logic isn't always explained clearly. At Farhat Lectures, we slow it down. We explain the why behind the rules, break concept into simple steps, and rebuild your understanding from the ground up without assuming any prior knowledge. When explanation matches your learning, everything changes. The confusion fades, the rules start to connect, and tax becomes manageable. If you are ready to understand tax with clarity and confidence, start your free trial at farhatlectures.com and let's build your tax foundation together. So what are incentive stock options? Stock options basically give someone the right to buy the stock at a specific price for a period of time. So how is that a right if I can buy the stock at any time? Here's how it works. Let's assume you work for Johnson & Johnson, and the stock price for Johnson & Johnson is $240. That's the current price now. So you can go ahead and buy the stock at $240. The company might say, I'm going to give you certain rights. Let's assume 1,000 right to buy at $300. Hold on a second. What's my benefit if the right is to buy it for $300? Here's the deal. I'm going to give you 5-year period. So not now, because if you buy it now, you can buy it for $240. You will not use that right. But for the next 5 years, anytime you can buy it at $300. So what is the gain for you as an employee? The gain or the incentive is for the stock price to cross $300. And every $1 above $300, it's $1,000 profit, gross profit in your pocket. So that's what stock options are. They are considered equity compensation. This is the way to incentivize you to work for the company long term, to work hard to drive the stock price up. So here's what we need to know about incentive stock options. For regular tax purposes, no income is recognized when the incentive stock option is exercised. Remember, the exercise is $300. When you buy it at $300, you're only buying shares, and as a result, there is no tax consequences if you're only exercising and buying the share. That's fine. For AMT, it's a different story. The positive adjustment is equal to the fair market value of the stock less the amount the taxpayer paid for it, including any amount paid for the option. So let's look at an example. So let's assume Adam works for a large publicly traded company and receive incentive stock options. And let's assume Adam exercised options to purchase 10,000 shares at 13 when the stock price is 18. So Adam had 10,000 shares, 10,000 options. And the options gives Adam the right to buy the shares at 13. This is the exercise price. So they can exercise it at 13. Now when the share price is 18, guess what Adam did? Exercised. So he bought the shares at 13 and the price is 18. As far as regular tax purposes, it's water under the bridge. When you buy, you don't pay taxes on your purchase. But for AMT purposes, it's automatically triggered a gain of $5 per share times 10,000 shares. It triggered a $50,000 tax bill although you did not sell the shares. Now Adam can immediately sell the shares, and if they sell the shares, they should have a $50,000 tax bill. So Adam sends his brokerage account $130,000, bought the shares, and Adam can immediately sell them for 180, but it doesn't matter. Even if Adam don't sell them, Adam's still responsible for 50,000 that will be added as an adjustment to his AMT. So he's being taxed now. So let me tell you a real story what happened back in the year 2001. We had the dot-com bust, and many people exercised their shares in 2000, and they had to pay, and they had to include that adjustment on their AMT. By 2001, remember the stock was 18. Think about Adam. Think if the stock price goes down to 10 and Adam wants to sell the shares. Now if Adam wants to sell the shares, Adam is at a loss of 30,000. So notice what happened. Adam was taxed before he even sold the shares. So that's what happened. This is real. It happened. So people paid their taxes on the unrealized gain, then they end up selling the shares at a loss. Now what's the tax basis for Adam? For regular tax purposes, the tax basis is 130,000. For AMT, the tax basis is 180. So let's assume Adam end up selling the shares for 100,000. They will have a loss of 80,000. If they end up selling it for 100,000, their loss is only 30. So you did go back and recapture the loss, but the point is you paid the taxes up front. So you're paying taxes on unrealized gains. So it's funny. Most people, what they do, I'm not saying all, but most people, they immediately exercise and they sell the shares. You don't have to sell the shares. You can exercise and buy, but you would exercise and sell the shares and pay the taxes, because if you need the money to pay the taxes, what are we looking at here? So we're looking at, just kind of give you an idea, if this is a long term, you're looking at 20% tax bill. You're looking at to pay $10,000 in taxes. So you're better, if you have the $10,000 and you want to hold the shares, of course you have to pay $10,000 and you have the shares. But if you don't have the $10,000, you're going to have to pay $10,000 and you walk away with $40,000 free and clear. Because I'm assuming this is long term. Now, if this is short term, it's considered short term, then you have to pay your regular ordinary income. It could be up to 37% of your proceeds. So that's why people do that. Anyhow, we're going to add $50,000 adjustments. And when we add this $50,000 adjustment, now we went from regular income to AMTI 304,027. Now, the other numbers we covered in the prior session. All what I did is I added an adjustment of 50,000. Let's take a look at another adjustment, long-term contract. For AMT purposes, taxpayer must use percentage of completion method rather than the completed method to report the income from long-term contract. Now, if you don't know the percentage of completion or the completed contract method for recognizing income, I'm not going to explain it now. It takes a lot of time, but I would refer you to my intermediate accounting, the revenue recognition chapter on farhatlectures.com to learn that. But regardless, most of the time in a tax course, they give you the information. You just have to know how to make the adjustment. Again, we're still working with adjustments here. So the adjustment is the difference between the income under the percentage of completion method and the income determined for regular tax, which is the completed contract. In the year in question, if AMT is smaller, the adjustment is negative. A negative adjustment is likely to occur in the year the contract is completed. This adjustment rarely, if ever, affect individual taxpayer. It's more for corporate, but nevertheless, let's look at it just to learn about the adjustment. Let's assume the company went into, or you went into, a 4-year contract. And the deal is, once the contract is completed, it's a 4-year contract, you'll get 100,000. That's the long-term contract. For AMT, what's going to happen is you're going to have to recognize 1/4 of the contract. It's for 4 years every year. So for AMT, you're going to have to recognize $25,000 in year X4. Well, for under regular tax, there's nothing. Year 5, nothing, 25,000, so on and so forth. At the end, over 4 years, you would recognize 100,000. For regular tax, the whole thing will be taxed in 27, and you'll have a negative adjustment because in the prior 3 years, you were recognizing 25,000. So what happened in year 1, you will have to add $25,000 adjustment on your as an AMT adjustment. So let's add the 25,000 for year 1. This will be 25,000. Again, in year 4, you will have a negative adjustment. And we looked at negative adjustments, so I'm not gonna, show you what a negative adjustment is. So now what we do is we go back and redo the computation. Now your AMTI is $329,027. At this point, I am done working adjustments. So basically, I say adjustments is done. So we started with regular income. It was this number here. I work many adjustments. Now I'm going to look at preferences. The first thing you need to know about preferences are always positive. They always increase your AMT. Why? Because preferences tend to arise because you received a deduction or an exclusion that gave you some sort of a benefit. And what happened is because it's a benefit or it's some sort of an exclusion, the government said, no, you don't deserve this for AMT, we're going to take it away. So unlike adjustments, preferences can only be positive. They increase the AMT. So preferences reduce the benefit initially received when computing regular tax. And there are very few preferences. There used to be 3, now there's only 2, and the reason there's 3 used to be 3 because from old rules that are no longer applicable. But to make, let's stay on the ground here. Private activity bonds, not municipal bonds. Not municipal bonds, because municipal bonds are excluded for AMT, are excluded for regular tax. We're going to see what private activity bonds are, and the depletion deduction, percentage of depletion deduction over the adjusted basis. When you deplete natural resources, you can have a depletion in excess of the adjusted basis, more than what you paid for it. Then you have to add that back. So to illustrate the point, I will work with private activity bond, PAB. So what's a PAB? It's not a municipal bond. You have to understand this. It's not the municipal bond that we know about that's totally excluded. Hold on. I just said not a municipal bond. PAB is a municipal bond, but notice where a significant part of the proceeds benefit private business or borrower, even though it's issued by a state or local government. Here's what happens sometimes. The state or local government or the county, they issue municipal bond. The regular municipal bond, the majority of them are 100% tax-free for regular tax, tax-free for AMT. But PAB, private activity bond, what happens is part of the proceeds are given to a private business or a private borrower. Now, why would they do that? Because this municipality, this village, this township, this county, this state, they want to go kind of in a partnership or encourage that business to operate in this area. Therefore, they borrow their money on their behalf. Now, if it is a PAB, they have to tell the person that's lending you the money, this is a PAB. It's a municipal bond and PAB. So for PAB, for private activity bond, it's still exempt for regular income tax purposes, but not exempt for AMT. What does that mean? It means you go back, boom, add it back to the AMT. It's a preference. It's always added back. For example, let's assume a taxpayer received $5,000 in municipal bond, $20,000 in qualified private activity bond, PAB. So for regular tax, what's the AMT adjustment? For AMT purposes, private activity bond interest must be added back. Simply put, we add back $20,000. So let's look at it from a foreign perspective. We add $20,000 to interest from specified private activity. Now we went from 210 to 25. Boom, boom, boom. We made all the adjustments. Some plus, notice one was minus. We could have minuses as well. We end up with $349,027. And remember, when I started this recording, I said we're going to get with AMTI before exemption. What are we going to do next? You guessed it. We're going to look at AMT exemption with phase out, because that's the next step. From this amount, we're going to take out the exemption, then figure out the tax, the AMT tax, then compare the AMT tax to regular tax. If AMT tax happens to be more, you have to pay this extra. If after all said and done, the AMT is less than regular, you pay the regular, of course. You're not going to switch to the AMT. The AMT only takes effect if you have to pay more. The government is not interested in asking you to pay less, but that will be next. Let's take a look at this multiple choice question from farhatlectures.com. When a taxpayer exercises an incentive stock options ISO, what is the AMT adjustment? Let's see. A, no adjustment is required because no income is recognized. Well, no income is recognized indeed, but that's for what purpose? Regular. For regular purposes, you don't pay, there's no tax if you exercise incentive stock option and you buy the stock. But the question is about AMT. Be careful. A is out. B, the adjustment equal to the exercise minus the fair market value. Is that the adjustment? Is this how much we add? The exercise price minus the fair market value. Well, for one thing, you have to remember the exercise price. When you exercise, okay, the exercise price is lower than the fair market value. So if we perform this computation, it's going to be a negative. So be careful. The adjustment equal to the fair market value minus the amount paid. Yes, this is the adjustment. So let me give you, let's go back to this example to illustrate this point of the adjustment. If you remember in this example, Adam, let's take a look at this, exercise the 10,000 shares at $18. That's the fair market value. That's the fair market value at 18. The exercise price was 13. So the difference between the fair market value and the exercise price is $5 times 10,000 options that Adam exercised, and we are looking to add $50,000 to Adam's AMT adjustment. Therefore, the adjustment is the difference between the fair market value and minus the amount paid, which is the amount paid is the exercise price. So this is the proper computation. Fair market value minus the amount, not the exercise minus the fair market value, because the exercise is 13 minus 18, negative 5. It just doesn't make any sense. So just be careful. The adjustment equal to the capital gain recognized on the sale. No, not the capital gain recognized on the sale. We don't use capital gain to determine the adjustment. Therefore, D is out. The correct answer is C. That is the amount of the adjustment. Now, if you're using Farhat lectures, you could always ask AI to explain the topic, explain the correct and incorrect answer, and if you're interested, it will generate a new MCQ for you that will help you understand this concept better. Whether you are a CPA exam candidate, enrolled agent, accounting student, don't shortchange yourself. Go to Farhat lectures, look at additional resources, invest in yourself. That's the best investment you can make. And God bless.